there, so I'm there. Yeah, so. Yes. Oh, that is unacceptable. Good morning. What are they going inside? The ones inside. Yeah. I was joking. How are you? I said, your message. When you're in Washington, this thing off? Like what? You know, we can put this one. You put them guys like around the world. You know what I mean? Yeah. Start again. Start up. From one next company. Yeah. Start up. Yeah. Serious man there. We just have just every night. And we just have just every night. I know Cynthia is
My apologies for being late. Can we stand for a word of prayer, please? Who's doing the prayer?
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Let's pray. Gracious and Heavenly Father, Lord, we want to thank you for this day. Thank you for life. Thank you for bringing us here safely. As we're about to have this press conference, as that, Lord, you will share your blessings over us, and the oil of favor will continue to be with us. We just want to thank you for everything. Thank you for life. Thank you for family. Thank you, Lord, for taking us thus far. Let your name reign forever. We ask this prayer for our name and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Let me acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Minister for National Security, the Acting Deputy Chief of Police, the Acting Assistant Commissioner for Police, both of them, Moses and Maxime, and the other officers of high rank, as well as the members of the public and the media. Thank you very much for being here. The Ministry of National Security, by now you're very familiar with our modus operandi and our interactions with the public. And this is another press briefing to update the public on the recent going-ons of the police. I don't want to say too much because we do have the speakers here who are going to give their reports. But I will call on the Honorable Minister to do a little bit of an opening for us, and then we'll proceed with the other speakers.
Thank you, Madam Permanent Secretary. Good morning, all. Good morning to the Deputy Commissioner of Police Acting, the Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Maxime and Anthony Moses. I recognize all the high-ranking police officers there. Paul Hill, I see Mr. Hill there, Mr. Timothy, and others. Members of the media fraternity, Dominicans listening and maybe viewing, I'm not sure. Good morning. Good morning. We're in the Creole Festival spirit, so there has to be a sense of more energy in the room. Let me again acknowledge the President and the Permanent Secretary, and thank you very much for your support you have been giving to the Minister and the Ministry thus far. I want to take this opportunity firstly to recognize the effort of the police officers so far in trying to clean the streets of legal firearms. Let's put our hands together for them. I want to make some general comments this morning before you listen to the Deputy Commissioner of Police and the other officials within the police force, and to say to you that your government is committed to public safety and peace. And that's the mission of the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, consistent with its policy direction and mandate. I want to give the public the assurance and to actually introduce the concept as a nation. And not only the concept, but it's the tradition of peace that we have enjoyed in this country. And we are known historically, regionally, and globally to be a peaceful country. And that is why the mission of the ministry, therefore, going forward, is to promote and to maintain that tradition, and to promote and to maintain public safety and peace. Public safety and peace. And to say further, the incidents of gun violence that we have witnessed in the recent past, while they are cause for concern, and we should be concerned about those incidents, but we should also guard against the obsession of those events and incidents, because those incidents certainly do not define us as a people. And that is why your government, and with me as a minister for now, is steadfast in ensuring that the police force is provided with all the resources required in order to stop the escalation of gun violence in this country. Therefore, going forward, I am declaring that gun violence is the number one concern and threat to our peace and our tradition. And therefore, it is my obligation as the minister and duty as a Dominican to ensure that the police is equipped with the personnel, the resources to go after and to jam the brakes quite hard on all the players involved in the syndicate of gun violence in this country once and for all, and to maintain that tradition of peace that we are known for globally. As we traverse into the Kyoto Festival, and we invite people throughout the world to come to the number one destination to enjoy themselves. We have a very impressive lineup. It is important for all of us to play our part to maintain that peace. Let me just take the opportunity, therefore, to call on all of us to take a very serious view of gun violence. And a number of people have been calling on the minister and the government to do more to address gun violence and gun crimes in this country. And when a more serious approach is being taken to stop the incidents of gun violence, the same people who have been calling for more to be done, they're calling me and messaging me and asking me a question. Who is in Dominica? What purpose are they in Dominica for? Let me just say, therefore, that this unserious and hypocritical approach will not assist us in assisting the police to do their work. Let me just say, whereas the public right to know is important, but the public does not have the right to know every aspect of national security issues in the country. When that happens, we compromise the operations of the police force and thereby putting lives and innocent lives at risk. Let me just reiterate, the public does not have a right to know every aspect of national security of the country. And the minister, as a minister, I have an obligation to the public safety, the public interest, and the national interest of the country. And there are certain things I cannot and will not share with the public. And therefore, if we are serious, and that is why going forward, Madam Pierce, we shall be going to the point where seminars will be actually organized for training for media personnel as to how do you go about reporting matters of crime and national security issues. It is very critical because you too have a right to inform the public, but fundamentally, you have a responsibility to the public interest and to your country. I believe that I need to say that and make it fundamentally clear that this unserious approach and this double standard that some of us practice and undermining, seeking to undermine and obstruct police operation, when you have double standard, the consequences you face will double. Let me just make it clear. My vocation is to law and order. That is how I want to live public life. And all of us must therefore, who have tasks and who are paid to perform certain tasks, must show that level of gravitas for that task for which you are paid. So, what have we done as a government to ensure that we confront gun violence frontally? And having said that, let me just repeat, what we're trying to do is to prevent an escalation to a level that is almost parallel to what obtains in other countries. We don't want that. Let me just remind you, why we must be concerned, we must guard against the obsession. Because if we are too obsessed over an incident, we may behave like it's an everyday phenomenon. And that is where the element of trepidation, the element of fear emerges. And what's going to happen? People are going to be skeptical to the market. That will not happen in Dominica. What we have done so far as a government, in the press conference, not last week, but previous to last week, the Prime Minister of this country made reference to some of the intervention that the government will be undertaking. Starting, as the minister who was mandated by law, the formation of the task force to deal exclusively with firearms that has been established. We have to ensure, because the whole issue of confronting gun crimes, we have to ensure that members of that task force are of the right caliber so that operations cannot be compromised, or you try to mitigate against the compromising of operations. As we speak, the ministry, of course, the Permanent Secretary will give instruction by the minister to actually, on behalf of the government, to seek assistance for the polygraphing of every police officer in that unit. As we speak, they are on island, and that is being done. I've also given instruction that if you're polygraphing the members of junior ranks in the task force for the firearm, in the drug squad, in special branch, in the various departments, the gazetted officers to whom they report have to be polygraphed also. We have to have that sense of seriousness in law enforcement. So we're hoping, and I want to thank our regional partners and international partners for assisting us to providing the professionals who are on island doing the various tests, and because that's critical going forward. I want to also say that we have also established what we call an anti-illicit firearms interagency investigative unit, comprising officers from the FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, the Custom and Excise Duty from the investigative unit, who have been providing tremendous support. And I want to take this opportunity because this fight cannot be fought and won by one set of people. The custom officers, especially those working in the investigative unit, are doing a tremendous job. Let's put our hands together for all of them, because a lot of things cannot be said there. Through their diligence, a number of firearms are continually being intercepted. We also have established, which I gave approval to a couple weeks ago, a specialized unit for community policing. Because whereas a number of folks who are 60 years and 50 years and 40 years were involved in the illegal firearms syndicate, they have made up their mind so to do. They're not going to stop. Unless, sadly, they're caught, they go to jail, or, sadly, Basel will come to them too soon. What we have to ensure, because you're also going to need, apart from the law enforcement intervention, you're also going to need sociological intervention, affirmative action, the engagement, the broader engagement of the community and members of society to save our vulnerable groups, especially our young men who are being used as mules. And I am happy that the community policing unit has been going out and partnering with various agencies and individuals with expertise on the public and the private sector. There should be a national outlook, and I'm calling on the churches, the homes, on all the agencies of socialization to partake in that endeavor, because it cannot be fought by law enforcement intervention only. But fundamentally, the threat has to be confronted, and that is why we're providing the police force with the resources to go after the men and women involved and to actually apprehend those who are responsible. Also, I cannot give details of granular details, of the training, but in the recent past, tremendous training has been provided to our police officers in various forms of firearms investigation. They are now better equipped to investigate and to trace aspects relative to illegal possession and trafficking of firearms. I want to commend again, express on behalf of the government, the support for IMPACT and all the other agencies, and all internationally and regionally, names I will not mention now. On the 27th of this month, I will not give the absolute detail, but you will see the commencement of work that will significantly enhance the capability insofar as surveillance is concerned in Dominica. If we're going to be successful, the effort has to be effected on ground and sea. And we must be able to see what is happening on our seas. And the need for water platforms by this I mean boats. I want to take this opportunity to express our gratitude to the government of the United States of America, who will be providing us with the various assets. They provided us with a new boat. We have been getting some issues so far, but in due time, Deputy, and I am hoping that, as they said, the boat is on the warranty, that can be resolved. And to complement what I just spoke about in terms of our intelligence, we'll be getting a good and very quick interceptor, and to ensure that we confront the threat from all fronts and to provide the police with the tools of trade that they need. We will be getting later this month for the assistance and instrumentality of IMPACTs, the equipment that will allow for the police officers in Dominica to fire guns that have been used when recovered, either in trafficking and may have been used to commit crime. So that equipment will allow the police to capture the reading of the ballistics. We actually have gotten assistance and a pledge to train 2 young police officers of the foundation in that science itself, or forensic science specific to gun investigation, and that person will be able to testify as a professional. Well, these people that we're looking at in the one person, and I hate to use the word persons, to me that's not a word. And so, so that I've been told, well, the police deputy and the commissioner, who was incidentally on some family emergency, have given me the commitment, and Moses is there. By the end of this month, we'll be able to identify and put everything in place for the 2 officers who will be going to Trinidad to pursue a 2-year intensive forensic science course that will allow them to come back. And so all this I'm talking about, that the equipment that will allow the police officers to fire and to capture the ballistic readings are precursors. They are precursors to we have in next year our own forensic lab. That is how serious the government is taking this matter. So no longer will we have to depend on sending our firearms, etc., for ballistic reading and interpretation and analysis to either Jamaica or Trinidad. All these things we're doing. We also, you have heard from the Prime Minister when reference was made to, because a number of the shootings, drive-by shooting that have taken place, and people are traveling sometimes with the firearm, they use rentals. So we have engaged Mr. Anthony Laron. There was a first draft for ensuring that the rentals, the tint, what they call DACAs, is of a particular percentage that will allow the police to see all the occupants on the vehicle. All. the occupants of the vehicle. And also special license plate for rentals. And so Mr. Larawan had been given instruction by the minister, and he has said that we'll get it before, but the deadline is October 6th to get the final draft. So you can go to Parliament, the time for talk is over. And we know, from what I've been told by the police and others, the rental owners are already making plans to use normal license plate number in order to trick the police. That too will be dealt with. And we also have to think, because there may be an attempt by those who are committed to commit crime to steal people's private vehicles. So you also have to be mindful of that to ensure that you secure your vehicles, etc. All these things that we're doing. We're looking also at the law. My take on the current gun laws in this country found that it is more stringent than Barbados, than St. Lucia, than Antigua. The only two islands, I believe, are St. Kitts and Jamaica. But what you're seeing, that a number of times, people are charged and brought before the court on gun-related matters. And they get a pat on the hand. And people hide behind what they call sentencing guidelines. When it is clear that if a particular offense is prevalent, especially one that relates to the taking of human lives and creating an environment of trepidation, all you have to do is to state the reasons why you're departing from the sentencing guidelines. And there's nothing wrong in giving a custodial sentence for a first offender who is brought before the court for a very serious matter. And I'm saying again, we're declaring gun violence as the major threat. It's a priority for the ministry and for the police and for the government. So why not, if we're already serious about dealing that matter, why not all of us share or demonstrate that level of seriousness? Just a couple of days ago, someone was caught by the police and with a loaded firearm, and I want to commend the officers for that. A search was executed. The person was just entering his house, and the person was found with cocaine, unadulterated, which means pure cocaine. Cocaine is a killer. Cocaine is not a spliff. You can make one mistake. And a number of stolen items, and a loaded 9mm. The person was given 1 year sentence and 6 months for the cocaine to run concurrently. Well, the person might just end up spending 6 months in prison. A week before, something similar happened. There was a case where it was the first offense of that individual. And the magistrate then, who realizes that he is part of the society, it is Emile Durkheim, one of my favorite philosophers, who actually has a piece that says, that refers to consensus crime. It simply means when there is a common understanding within society that a particular crime is very serious or one is not serious. And there's consensus between all of us that gun, shooting a man, killing a man or a woman, having a gun, loaded, when there was a gun amnesty program, is a very serious crime. It's not so. So there's also debate as to some people, the person was found with a number of ammunition. But if you have ammunition, a number of ammunition, and the police did not find a gun, especially if you have different type of ammunition for 9mm, for M16, etc., the police did not get it. It means that they may have the gun somewhere hidden. Do you get my point? No, so the facts of the matter is very important. The magistrate departed from the sentencing guidelines and stated reason. That matter was appealed, before the Supreme Court. Now, when a matter is taken before the magistrate court, and let us suppose the person is given a custodial sentence, and the person appeals, that person must be released pending the result of the Superior Court's ruling. So there was a hearing, and you had a panel of 3 appeal judges. And they ruled that the magistrate was right. He gave reasons. That person was given 2 years, and it was said in retrospect he should have gotten 3 years, even if it was his first offense. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because the crime is a prevalent crime. It is very serious, not only in Dominica, but throughout the country. The reason, the purpose of the ministry really is try to educate the public too. Because there's a lot of things being said out there from people who do not know what they're talking about. Really. And so we live in an era where what we hear, we believe what we want, and the truth is an offense. But it's Bob Marley who says the truth may be an offense, but not a crime. And so all of us, I'm saying that for us to have a sense of seriousness, because not only the police and the government, but all of us have a role to play, and all of us who have roles to play, who are assigned with tasks, especially those of us who have been paid for that task, must demonstrate that level of gravitas. We have a gun amnesty program. It was reported 5, but I know 6, from what I know, firearms were actually surrendered. All these things that we're doing and giving people the chance and the choice. Now it's time for action. We have been talking a lot. We're providing the police with additional mobility vehicles. And I want to say again that every time I go to the Prime Minister and ask him for resources for the police, he always approves. So, Mr. Deputy, I also spoke to the Commissioner, and we're the vehicles are on the way. They have left. The last time I checked, they were actually in Dominican Republic. So by the 9th of October, we're going to have 10 additional vehicles. Now, I've asked for more, and the Prime Minister has so approved. That'll take some more time. But let me just place on the record that the police must treat the vehicles the same way they treat in their private vehicles. And I've already mandated the Permanent Secretary that there has to be accountability for the use of state resources. That if you're not a assigned driver to a police vehicle and you take the vehicle and you damage it, you have to pay for the damage. And all accidents of police vehicles need to be reported. And you have to go back to the days, Mr. Deputy, I've said so to the Chief already, of having a log for the vehicles. So every driver who takes over the vehicle has to ensure that the log is updated, and there is no inspect the vehicle. That's what we used to do in CID. There is no bunks. I thought I tried something with me, when we were taking over in the morning, and he bunks the vehicle in the corner, because when you go to the gas, by the pump there to get gas, even though a good driver, he bunks the other side there, right? And Mr. Bongs that they put that there well washed, until that. But my big eye is not useless. I saw that Bongs there. That was noted. So I'm saying that those are things, maybe I'm being humorous. These are things that we need to go back to, because l'argent, gouvernement prend pour gagner voiture, c'est pas ça. And therefore you must take care of something, especially if it's not yours. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we provide the resources. Sorry for being frank, but that nonsense of national government vehicles have to stop. I want to also say, before I end, that those of you who are still thinking and have illegal firearms, because I understood from the chief, a lot of people hide now. Some people have even left the country. I don't know why. Well, yesterday, something very wonderful happened. When someone called the police And the person apparently was scared to come to the police, to give the police the gun and the ammunition. 9mm is a serious gun, eh? But the police was called on a number that was unknown, and it was directed where to go to find the ammunition and the gun. And the police went to that exact place and also the community, and the police was able to get the gun and the ammunition. And let us put our hands together for that. I feel we need more citizens like that. So that is why it's important to keep the pressure. And so those of you who are thinking and still scared, you can do what was done yesterday. As I close, I want to just go back to the commencement of my presentation here this morning, when I said that Dominica has been defined by a tradition of peace, and that we should guard against the obsession over those incidents of bad moments. And then when somebody's shot or a marshal, the person is dead, that's an incident of a bad moment for all of us. But let us not get too obsessed over that, because that is not what we are. And I'm saying that when we look at the crime statistics, all right, crime, and we isolate the issue of the gun-related matters. Crime in other areas are at a historic low, Mr. Deputy Commissioner of Police. And rape, indecent assault, and cited rape, when you interfere with minors. And anybody who does that should not only go to jail, but whatever used to violate the life of a young child, a girl, should be hold it back. Right? That too is done. Burglary, which of course was the most committed crime. In the early 90s and late 90s, averaging 1,003, 1,004. Last year was 273. This year so far, only 94. Let us think about it, 94. The city of Roseau, or the Roseau catchment area, namely Foncolé, Roseau Central, Goodwill. Historically, these are the areas where you have the most burglaries in Dominica. Historic lows. So far, 94. That's the lowest in the region. It's the lowest it has been in the history of Dominica since not only in independence, since the days of Mr. late great, may so rest in peace, he will live down, when he was Chief Minister and Premier. I'm saying that as an indication as to what defines us as a people. Peace. So let us not make these three incidents of gun violence define us. We can do much better than that. But if we don't act as we're doing now, we run the risk of having something similar to what obtains in other countries. That's what I wanted to say. And to say to you, the members of the public, my apologies, but the public does not have a right to know every aspect of national security. And I have a responsibility to ensure that that remains so. If we do that, if we talk about everything that the police is going to do, it doesn't make sense to have national security, it doesn't make sense to have police. So let us all work together, cooperate with the police, and let us strive to continue to promote Dominica as the most peaceful part on earth. Again, the mission of the ministry and your government is one of public safety and peace and anyone or any group who intend by way of their manifest behavior to disrupt that peace will be dealt with frontally. I thank you very much.
I now call on Mr. Alin Maxime, the Assistant Commissioner of Police, to give us some remarks.
The Honorable Reuben Blackmore, Minister of National Security and Legal Affairs, Ms. Joan Commodore, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Legal Affairs, Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey James, Deputy Chief of Police, Acting, other gazetted officers, rank and file of the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force, members of the media, the listening public. Good morning. The Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force has a mandate to rid the streets of illicit guns and ammunition. Members of the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force, with the support from the regional security system, have been engaged in exercises island-wide. To date, we have recovered 5 firearms and a sum of money which was seized for the purpose of investigations. The operation will continue. I must remind you that it is an offense to have any unlicensed firearm, any illegal firearm in your possession. The Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force is not going to tolerate and will not tolerate any person who has in his or her possession a firearm without the prescribed license. We will not spare the police force, members of the police force will not spare any effort in finding those persons and dealing with them in keeping with the provisions of the law. To ensure the continued tranquility of this, our island, we are open to any assistance to help us meet our objectives. We are therefore appealing to the citizenry, the churches, local groups, clubs, all civic-minded people to provide any information which will assist in the removal of these illegal weapons from our streets. I often say that there is no smart bullet. So all of us, it is a responsibility of all of us to join our efforts in getting rid of the illegal firearms which are on our streets. It would be remiss of me to not thank the officers who have been toiling to ensure that Dominica remains safe and peaceful. Officers, let's keep pushing. We will achieve our goal. To those with illegal firearms, be assured that we will not relent in our efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I will now call on the Acting Deputy Chief of Police, Mr. Jeffrey James, to give a report.
say is it morning, good afternoon to one and all. Now that I have said that, let me recognize the presence of the Minister, Honorable Raymond Bakron, Minister of National Security and Legal Affairs, Ms. Joan Commodore, the Permanent Secretary of that ministry, ACP Aline Maxime, and Antonio Moses, gazetted officers, ASP Powell, ASP Hillier, Timothy, and John Lewis. In our presence, the press and others, let me recognize your presence and thank you for coming. Let me just dive straight into my presentation or remarks. The Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force has embarked on a series of intensified police activities aimed at reducing the possession and callous use of illegal firearms in Dominica. Following a request for assistance to the Honorable Minister for National Security and Legal Affairs, a contingent of officers from the Regional Security System, RSS, as we commonly know it, was deployed to support our efforts. As you have heard from ACP Maxime, an operation named Clean Sweep is currently ongoing, and I wish to reiterate that the police will not relent in our efforts to rid the streets of illicit firearms and ammunition. Regarding the recent homicide in Portsmouth, where the lifeless body of Juan Warner was found shot at his home in Glenville on Friday, September 26, 2025, an investigation is actively ongoing. 2 persons of interest are currently in police custody as we continue to investigate this matter. One crime is one too many, and the callous use of illegal firearms must come to an end. I must note or trigger your memory that the government of Dominica recently granted a gun and ammunition amnesty from July 16th to August 15th, 2025. Only this year, during which 6 illegal firearms and over 200 rounds of ammunition were surrendered to the police. We are thankful for the surrender of these weapons, but regrettably, there are more in the hands of criminals for nefarious use, and so we need to get them out of the hands of these criminals. Case in point, the recent shootings suggest that some individuals made it a calculated decision to retain these illegal firearms and have resorted to using them to commit crimes. Dominica has always been a peaceful country, and the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force will do everything in its power to ensure that it remains safe for all to enjoy and live. We will vigorously take measures to address this issue, and I repeat, this useless use of shootings must stop at once. It must stop. It must come to an end. We cannot tolerate no longer people are using illegal firearms to shoot and putting certain people at risk. It must come to an end. And as we said, it is a collective effort. The community, we and the police must come together to ensure that Dominica remains a peaceful place. We believe in partnership, as I said, with the community in our approach to bring this issue to an expected end. And so we solicit the assistance of the public in solving these crimes and bringing perpetrators to justice. I appeal to the public to continue partnering with the police and share any information on this crime or any other crime. The Crime Stoppers hotline number is 1-800-8477-TIPS. It's available for anyone wishing to remain anonymous when sharing information on any crime. I repeat the hotline number, Crime Stoppers, 1-800-8477-TIPS. I cannot end and not show gratitude to the efforts of the men from the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force and our regional contingent, the RSS, who are there with us. So let me say special thank you to them for their commitment and hard work in the cause, and that cause to rid the streets of illegal firearms. And as the ACP said, we have an ongoing operation called Clean Sweep, and we will maintain our mandate, and we will succeed with the efforts of all, the community and the police. Thank you very much.
Okay, I would now like to direct the attention of the press. JJ, will you lead? Deputy Chief, can you please lead the press in seen some of the firearms that were confiscated during the raids. So I invite the members of the press to go and have a look. Deputy, maybe you want to lead them in a small briefing. On what they- Thank you. We'll now take any interaction from the press if you have any questions.
Question
Sure, yes,
for
go
the
ahead.
Minister of National Security. Mr. Blackmore, any updates on the CCTV cameras within the city or under the cliff to start with? Any idea? Somebody will start? Because I would imagine these will help in helping.
Sorry, I'm one of those who, as a minister, there are certain things I do not talk about publicly for a number of reasons. Actually, just to say, we have begun that process, and we're also ensuring that in our stations, are also the police commissioner and his management team can see everything that's happening at the police stations for the country. How many stations have you done so far? 3. So far we have done 3 of the main police stations, and we have all the points throughout the country, with no exception, where cameras will be installed. And our expectation is to have that done before the independence, but we have to ensure we get the best cameras for that, with the competence to capture everything in color, the day and night. So yes, but I did not speak about that particular intervention. Yes.
And body cameras for the police in the future?
Body cameras for the police. Now, going forward, I mean, that is something that we have to explore also. I believe if you have body cameras for the police, it provides transparency for both the police and the public. And, so that is something that is, of course, is worthy of being explored. What we're doing now is ensuring that our streets are properly monitored, and our stations are properly monitored. And yes, but that is a futuristic, but also a very important thing to think about. And step by step, getting there. To say further, the issue of driving under the influence of alcohol, that is something that we have to ensure that, because there's nothing in the law that prevents the police now. If somebody is suspected for driving drunk, you can bring the person to the nearest police station or the nearest clinic to get a sample of the person's urine, the person's blood. The law says that. But we're also working now to look at the laws, because the issue of drunk driving also causes lives. Only if illegal firearms cause lives. So we have to look at all the issue of public safety that need to be addressed going forward. And I believe the camera will be a useful tool. But yes, we're working on that. And don't ask me where they're going to be. Maybe you might see them, but I am not going to say where they're going to be.
My question is also to you as well, Minister. Earlier in the year, in July, when the Prime Minister waged war against violence in Dominica, we heard of the 7-point plan, and you highlighted some of the measures that have already taken steps, such as the tinting of the vehicles. Two of the measures I'd like to inquire about is the hotline, the confidentiality hotline, where $1,000 will be granted for calling in and placing the tips of anyone. I'd like to find out thus far, 2 months later, have you all yielded any success from that hotline, as well as the Minister, you spoke about the slap on the wrist for people who commit those crimes. We also heard about the engagement of a special prosecutor here in Dominica. I'd like to find out an update on that, please.
Okay. Fair question. As I said, you're from Mao, you're from my area in Mao, so you can ask me any question you want, no problem. So the issue about, let me start with the last question, what is so significant, of the engagement of a special prosecutor to deal specifically with gun-related matters. But yes, we have finalized the, in terms of reference space for that, we have done that, and we have identified the person who's going through the terms of reference and contractual terms in terms of how much is actually would like to be paid, and that has to be negotiated between himself and the permanent secretary. That's been done also. So yes, that has been done. And on the issue of, you asked a question about the hotline, I think the police can make a reference to that. In terms of the $1,000, I think it was a bold and to me, very smart offer to have been made. But I heard people, the same folks who were talking about, we need to address the matter, saying, but my life does not worth $1,000, it's more than $1,000. You see? That's how serious we are. So it is still there, and you can utilize it. And the issue about the hotline, as I said yesterday, somebody called and said that I've gone, but I afraid to give it to you because if I give it to you, you're going to arrest me. You understand? And the person did not disclose what number they're calling from. And the person said, I'm going to place the gun there with the ammunition. And the person was advised to remove the magazine from the gun and to disengage it to make it safe. And the police went there and found a high-powered handgun, one shot to kill you, it takes in the right place. So that was, the person used the hotline also. So in terms of the detail, I'm not a police officer. I am not involved in the granular detail of the operation of the police force. So as to how effective the hotline is, I think maybe the deputy or one of them can make reference to that.
To begin, let me just repeat the hotline number before I answer the question. It's 1-800-8477-TIPS, and it has been working. We have received several tips, not really only related to gun crimes or possession of illegal firearms, but other crimes, and we have been using it effectively. As a matter of fact, there is a team that is put in place to manage that hotline. So it is working. And as for the reward for the firearms that were surrendered, that too has worked. We have given one individual who caused a firearm to be recovered. We have paid him the sum that was advertised. So it is that has worked to a certain extent as well. Thank you.
My question is to the Honorable Minister. So it is very interesting that you spoke about a slap on the wrist by magistrates, and it's also very interesting that you mentioned where the Court of Appeal upheld a decision of a magistrate who incarcerated an individual, a first-time offender. However, after this very interesting ruling, a magistrate basically gave another individual a slap on the wrist. How do you fathom such rulings as you go about your ministry and also the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and the police, fighting crime, gun violence, where the decisions of certain magistrates are not in keeping with what you are expecting and the country is expecting?
Very interesting, you use the word fathom. Fathom, that I believe that it's for all of us to have a real profound understanding of the situation, and within the spirit and connotation of the word fathom. So the fact of the matter is for all of us to understand in the most profound manner the situation. But I'm not there to cast aspersion over the magistrate court or the court. I believe it's for us to have an appreciation of the society that we live in, and that what makes sentencing relevant is that the sentence must suit the crime, and it must serve as a deterrent to potential offenders. So it's up to the individual magistrate to look within his or herself to have an understanding as to what is at stake. So the only reason that I made reference to that was to bring out there that all of us have a role to play. And I hold fundamentally, and in my appreciation and understanding as to how the law operates and the interplay that exists between the law and social organization, to which, of course, the court belongs, because the court has a fundamental core obligation to society. And therefore, the sentences that you lay down will determine the kind of society that you create, and all of us have to live in the society we create. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So I think it's something that calls for a more profound, as you use the word, fathom, profound understanding as to what is at stake. Did you get my point? And that is why the ministry will continue to do what it has to do, because just last week, through the instrumentality of the NDP, we organized what we call a case management 2-day training program with all the magistrates and the judicial officers and everybody working in the court. And fundamental to case management is the involvement of the judge and the magistrate from the time a matter is filed to the conclusion of the matter. So you will have an understanding of the matter and the potential problems that may emerge, and how can you resolve this problem that you have identified. So we will provide all this training, but ultimately, the person sitting on the bench has control of the court, not scaring the Prime Minister or the Minister. We can talk about it as citizens, as the Minister. I can talk about it, but without casting aspersion. But I'm saying it's a situation that calls for setting aside. There's no room for any element of indifference or cowardice. That's the way I want to put it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Minister, you may also want to, because I know the last press conference that we were there was the issue of I did ask this issue of the magistrate, and finally the magistrate has taken an oath and started sitting today. Maybe you want to speak about that, sir, please.
Okay. We, as you know, as part of some of the action government is taking and will continue to take is the engagement of additional magistrates. Last week, Wednesday, 3 candidates were interviewed, or the week before, 3 candidates were interviewed. We also have a former police officer who is a lawyer, who actually retired and working overseas, was also expressed an interest in being a magistrate. My advice is that he should apply, and the intention is to engage the magistrates, but and to ensure that we have the most magistrates in the history of this country. One thing that has to be seen as a deliberate intention of the government to ensure that matters are disposed of quickly and serious matters like gun crimes can be dealt with swiftly. We have 6 independent courts at the magistrate court. It means that 6 courts can operate independently. So we are striving to have 9 magistrates. And we have started the night court, and I want to take the opportunity to commend the magistrate for being there. I've been to the night court 3 times up to last night. I left there after 8, and the magistrate and the clerk and the officers were there doing the work. They were providing the lights outside, and again, advising the police to ensure that outside security continues so we can maintain a sense of seriousness. And I understood all that is being done to ensure that matters can be disposed of quickly. And even bail hearing, I was told, the night before last, were held at the court. Do you understand? And all different applications. So the night court in itself provides for greater utility of the court. And anybody who's interested in advancing the interests of justice must support night court. Let me just say further, the notion that night court was just pushed out there arbitrarily and abruptly is fundamentally untrue and misplaced. It's not the first time we've had night court, and night court have been spoken about. And a year and a half ago, I think was it, I had a meeting with the Bar Association at their request in my office. Some of the items that we discussed, night court, and the passing once and for all of the legal professions bill, and a number of other issues. The Bar Association put on the table the need for additional magistrates, etc. all have been discussed. And a few months ago, the minister asked the permanent secretary, instructed the permanent secretary to engage the Bar Association and to bring everybody on board in terms of going back to the night court for a number of reasons. And so it wasn't something that was arbitrarily done. And there's some who maybe they believe that delays in matters work to the disadvantage. You understand? So anything that the state does to actually mitigate against that, they will oppose it. But any attorney who is interested in his client will appreciate any attempt that the courts make, the state makes, to provide greater utility of the court and greater access of the court services. Okay? I wanted to also add that.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Honorable Minister, I call on you now to give the closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much to the media fraternity. Thank you to the Deputy Chief of Police and the Assistant Commissioners and the other officers who were here, gazetted officers who were there, and the Inspector was also there. Thank you very much for your presence. And I want to take the opportunity also to really big up the media, because you have been always very, very diligent in what you do. What I would appreciate going forward to know certain things that the Minister cannot talk about. And I want to just dispel, because it's difficult. Because I'm going to believe that social media platforms, they are good. But I also believe that it has gotten to a point where social media actually has surpassed our intellectual capacity to an extent, because the kind of things we put on social media, and the intention of social media is very good to allow for better relationship to be forged. I mean, socially and within the business and community, irrespective as to how far you are from each other or the business space. But we use it to put things that are not true. To dispel that, I did not see it fit at the time when the request was made to bring in additional support for the police. Not because that the police is weak, but I cannot detail what the police submitted to me that they wanted to do, and the additional resources that they needed. I mean, the ministry, on the instruction, made the request for additional support almost over 4 weeks now. But I was not going to say it to the public, and And of course, the Prime Minister must, the Prime Minister has to be advised, and you have to get the Prime Minister clearance. But the notion that it was done without the knowledge of the Minister, the police, I mean, it's another attempt to cause discord and to shift focus on the issue that is important. It was a submission, or when the Minister meets the police chief, the police should make a submission, requirement. I have in my possession a letter from the Commissioner of Police, so requested, and I had a discussion with the head of RSS, and of course instructed the Permanent Secretary to write on their behalf for such support. So that's how we operate. But I was not going to discuss that in the public. But I believe at the time that it was not useful to what the intention of the operation. And I believe that in itself, the hoopla that was created and the selling out that was created will inevitably hurt subsequent operations. And I want to say also there's a number of times we have had foreign troops on our soil in operation, and it had to be done, You know what I'm saying? And I was saying that the media has to understand that, and also the public has to understand that the right to know sometimes has to be balanced against national security and public interest. So it wasn't. I was not going to do it, and I was still. You can ask the PS and the police. I was still not inclined to have done it today. To be quite honest with you, because my focus is to do everything possible to get the folks who are messing up our peace. And to say that, I wanted to say that finally as a close. So thank you very much for being here. All of us have a role to play in ensuring that we confront this threat to our peace. Gun violence is the priority focus of the ministry and the government insofar as the threat to our public peace and safety is concerned. Thank you very much, sir.